So here I am 3 months later. You might remember a video I made a few months ago about changes I wanted to make. If I get into bad habits, then that can become ingrained really easily as well. So I have to be a bit careful, and I've noticed of late that I've been eating snacks, salty, savoury snacks, over doing myself a nice meal. It's the in the moment pleasures, the things that feel right in the moment aren't necessarily best for our longer term, if you know what I mean. We all obviously enjoy that short term gratification, or the dopamine hit, but at the same time we need to adult ourselves, we need to parent ourselves as well. So the two main things I was talking about maybe 3 months ago now was changing my eating habits, and the other thing was letting go of physical stuff, organising my physical environment, if you like. It was all a case of letting go of bad habits, unhealthy foods, letting go of stuff I just didn't need or love, and it was just cluttering up my mind, my spaces, my psyche, everything. I have been on my journey, on my process, putting the work into those things. This is the update, if you like. Right now I feel lighter, clearer, brighter, healthier. I've got more energy, loads more energy, and also I've got less pain, like less symptoms for things like my fibromyalgia and stuff like that. So I just feel more positive in my mental outlook. Everything feels a little bit simplified, if you like, and I don't feel so much of that foggy overwhelm that I was really suffering from before. Basically changed my life in a period of 2 to 3 months, and I think the real change happened up here. That was where most of the work happened, up sort of mentally, psychologically. I didn't pick everything I wanted to change, so I didn't get that terrible overwhelmed feeling. I picked kind of the things that were standing out most to me, and then I decided to put the work in. So there was an element of energy and focus and discipline, if I dare say that word, but I was devoted to my cause, to my quest of self-improvement, if you like. And I was also really, really sick of waking up in the morning feeling rubbish. Yeah. I think food and nutrition is absolutely at the heart of how we feel in our health. And so I'll share with you what I've been doing with regards to shifting my eating habits into better ones. And I'll also give you some studio updates about I had a major declutter process going on. I'm probably 90% there, so I'm not completely finished yet. So there are still always going to be things to do and improve, etc. But, on this phase of my declutter, I am about 90% there, and I feel so different working in here as well. So I feel, again, all those things lighter, clearer, brighter, and I'm getting more stuff done as well, which is really great. So in this video, I'll update you about my journey and my progress, and sort of how I got here, if you like, because there's a few mental things you have to get over, isn't there, if you're going to actually make steps to change. And that does involve, within the process, some emotional letting go, some psychological and mental challenges as well. So I'll share that with you. And as part of my process, there's always art journaling. So I've kind of taken a little creative break, but I've still been working in my art journal. So I'll maybe share a bit of that with you as well.
I was never the one to write up a song for just anyone. I was always the one to find myself lost in old conversations. Oh, 'cause I've always been told that things will unfold if you keep on waiting. But then you came along and proved me all wrong.
I like to mainly work without reference material for transformational journaling. so I never know who is going to appear on the page. I don't mind the quirky little faces that want to show up. They help to communicate the emotions I'm feeling, and often have helpful messages which unfold throughout the process. The actual rhythm of a creative task, such as drawing, writing, or painting, when done in a way that doesn't focus on outcomes and final results, actually has a powerful effect on our brains. During this process, we release neurotransmitters, such as serotonin. This really helps us make those mind shifts that we need to make in order to take any action steps we need for the changes we would like to make. I'll talk a little bit about wanting to change my diet and eating habits this way in a moment as well, because these shifts take a push and some work in a physical sense too. It's always the bit before that seems to overwhelm me and then causes me to hesitate and procrastinate. I always find that once my mindset has switched form, the action steps are the easy part. You'll have to let me know in the comments if that's true for you as well. So if we reflect carefully on our pages later, we can clearly see signs and symbols revealing the hidden underlying messages that are there. I spent so much time, many years in fact, during our van life days journaling and developing my process, and experienced some truly magical transformational experiences. We can hold these pages in our hand and it becomes a tangible physical thing in the form of these layers in our journal. Every month I post a new art journaling video and prompts in our lovely Patreon community, so feel free to check out the Pockets £5 tier for my catalogue of art journaling tutorials. I always leave my links in the description below.
Try forever and I feel so free. I'm a sweet baby.
If you're on the verge, on the edge of leaping over to make some changes, or you're within your process and you're having some plateaus and you're feeling a little bit despondent or like you want to slip off track, then I hope this inspires you to keep going, because it really is worth the energy if we put the energy into ourselves and becoming the best selves that we can possibly be, physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally. And then we've got our lights polished, if you like. I always say shine your lights bright, and this is kind of what I mean by that, because once we do that and we fill our own cups and we're really shiny, we can then shine that on other people, and so we've got more to give, if that makes sense. So it's a win-win, and I truly believe it is also a cycle, and we have ebbs and flows, and that's completely allowed, so no beating ourselves up within the process. Life is a journey, as we know, and at the same time I also believe that it's a circle of love as well, so it's a giving and receiving as well. And so sometimes we're in the mode of needing things, and so you need to learn how to receive as well, and when we're in that state we need to nurture more. So it might be a case that you're not ready to put the energy in to make the changes, but there's still stuff going on up here, if you like, that's actually starting the work for us. We have to get in the right mental space in order to set things into action steps, don't we? Anyway, this is just part of my own journey and my own process with it. Yes, I've had ups and downs and I've fallen off track here and there. I'm feeling really good, I'm feeling really positive. Not all the time and not every day, because again, ebbs and flows. I guess my ulterior motive for sharing my own process and my own journey has to be, I'd love it if everybody watching could feel good as well. And if you're not feeling good right now, then there are steps that you can literally take straight away to make yourself feel better. So it doesn't necessarily have to take the 3 months as well. I think we can do it in an instant. There's a book that I often talk about here, Jill Bolt Taylor's Stroke of Insight, where she basically has a stroke. She is a neuroscientist, I believe, and she has a stroke, and she talks about her process and journey of building her brain back up, if you like, and her realizations of how a brain works at the end are not how she felt before she had her stroke, if you like. When she was stuck in her science, she didn't have as much information about the brain that she had after she'd recovered from her stroke. One of the major revelations she had was that you can change your mood in an instant just by changing your thoughts. So I think that's part and parcel of it as well. A lot of the stuff does happen up here, doesn't it? It's not just the action steps, there are mental steps to it as well, aren't there? We have to get our brains in the right mindset. come in to do some finishing touches and another layer on the studio. I would say I'm about 80% there. Hang on a sec, I'm just going to shut the window. It's been a thorough declutter. There are a few boxes left that I haven't decluttered yet, and I still need to sort out a few of the plant babies and things like that. I've had some revelations storage-wise, so I'll share that with you in the video. And I guess, you know, I've had an art studio for a long time, but I didn't really get a grasp on organisation and storage until I've done the final few layers of this declutter. I mean, we all know that tidying up and decluttering and organising everything is life-changing. It just makes life run more smoothly. It takes away a lot of the complications, and so it helps our day, our thoughts. It just helps it all flow much better, doesn't it? So it's certainly not a new concept that I've not embraced before, but I think this time, the different thing I did was to basically think a little bit more carefully, a little bit more creatively, if you like, about my storage solutions. And instead of thinking about how I thought it should be or how I wanted it to look, I worked in the space and thought about how I work, where I reach for things, what are the kind of things that I lose all the time, those kind of questions. And I also even delved in like all the things that were sort of stocked under tables and things like that, which weren't hugely convenient, and so therefore I wasn't dipping into them. So for example, my collage materials. So I found a completely different storage solution. It's going to absolutely invigorate, if nothing else, but it's probably going to be life-changing in the way I work. Yes, I will go so far to say it's life-changing. Anyway, I've actually had a lot of trouble coming in today. Let's go and sit over there, shall we? Because I've actually got a drink, so is that good? Hopefully it is. I'm going to have a little bit of drink and I'm going to have a late breakfast. I've basically had one of those days where it's just really, really hard to leave the house and get yourself moving. And I almost wrote the day off, which sometimes isn't a bad thing, as we know. Anyway, I didn't. I've obviously come in because here I am. And I'm just going to do a little something, I think, and not worry if it's not loads. But the aim of the day is to do a little something, not something, you know, amazing and massively productive. No. I think if I'd thought about it like that, I wouldn't have come in. No. Because I'm not 100% yet, but I would say I'm 80%. If I can take it to 85, 90% there, that's good enough for me. We don't have to get it perfect in order to, you know, start the artwork or whatever it is you're doing in your room that you've been sorting. Because I know I'm not alone in my declutter process. There are a lot of you out there writing in the comments that you're also going through it as well. And, you know, we can't get away from the fact that it's hugely emotive because we have these emotional connections to our things, to our stuff, and it can be really difficult to wrench ourselves apart, especially if we've had something for quite a long time. One of the main things I've noticed that's really helped me in this declutter, and so that I'm not just organising the stuff I've got and getting new storage to make sure everything fits, I am fine-tuning my storage and letting go of some of it in actual fact. So I've got less storage and I want to clear up underneath desks and things like that to make that really optimum. And so I really have had to go in those scary boxes and let go of some stuff. And in the last video, I think I called it the art of letting go. I really have been letting go. And I haven't really shown a lot of that process on here, partly because some of it's a little bit more private than YouTube, and partly because, you know, if I'm just showing me going through my stuff, it, you know, perhaps could be a bit boring, I don't know. But yeah, I have put a video up on Patreon last week, a little, like I put these little secret vloggies up, so I've kind of shared a bit more in there. But suffice to say, I've gone through the stuff, I've let stuff go that I have basically been procrastinating actually making a declutter decision on since before my van life days. So by that I mean at least 10 years, 10, 12 years ago. Yes, because we were van lifing for quite a number of years and we've, you know, we're post van life as well now. So it was really time for me to address those things, wasn't it? So going back in time a little bit, when I was actually decluttering and getting ready to move into our first tiny van, I had so many decisions. I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of shoes, clothing, books, art supplies, you name it, I had it. And I really struggled to let go of my clothes. That was quite a difficult category for me, and decide what was coming in the van with me, what was going into storage, and what was going to the charity shop or give away. So that was tricky, and my shoes as well, because I did have quite a lot of shoes. I don't anymore at all by any means. I've let go of all that stuff. I still have a clothing issue, so you may have seen that clothing declutter video a few months ago. I don't have a shoe issue anymore, and I don't have a book issue anymore. I have quite a few books in here now, but not at home. And, you know, I fine-tune things just so that they are the things that I want and the things that inspire me in here. So I allow myself a little bit more leeway. The point I'm trying to make in a roundabout fashion, as per usual for me, sorry about that, is that I was so decisioned out when moving into the van and letting go of the stuff that I procrastinated a lot of the decisions. So a lot of the maybes that should have been let go of at that point, I kept hold of. And in actual fact, we then were in the van for a long time. Then we were in a teeny tiny place. So I kept a lot of stuff in the studio that really was home stuff, but I kept it in the studio because I didn't want to add the complicatedness of the extra stuff at home that I didn't have any space for in this teeny tiny place. So we've since moved twice more from there. Now I can take the stuff home, and I'm also ready, or I found out I was ready to let go of a heck of a lot of stuff that I'd just had for years and years and years. The outcome of that now is that I have swept out my dusty corners, and I think I said this in the last vlog as well, that I literally feel like I've taken everything out of my room, turned it upside down, all the dust has dropped out, and it just feels super clean. So every corner has been swept, hoovered, cleaned. I'll give you a quick kind of tour kind of thing. I won't do like a proper detailed studio tour or things like that, but I'll just pick out the really important things that I think have really shifted and optimized my space as a creative, but also the general things in any space, because I have actually been doing this very similar process at home. I haven't been quite as detailed yet at home, but I've been doing like surface decluttering. I've been going through a few boxes here and there, adding to the charity shop pile that's in here, letting go of stuff at home, cleaning a few extra things. We bought a new Hoover because our Hoover was so awful. Really bad, really tricky to use. So we've done a couple of things to, you know, kind of optimize our environment at home. And I feel lighter on every layer. I really, really do. I kind of love that picture in the spring where you fling your windows open and throw your rugs outside and dust everything down and get your cobwebs and things like that. But I tend to love to do this kind of thing later on in the year. I'm more in the mood, I think, in the autumn. I don't know, and I really don't know what's got into me for doing this. I knew there were so many things in this room I could get working better for me because it's such a fantastic space. It really, really is, and I'm so lucky. And I just wanted to make it the best space it could possibly be. Yes. So as we all know, life is a journey with its ups and downs, and sometimes we have to confront things that we have to change. And it's not easy, is it? So we get into bad habits, for example, and we need to turn a corner with them. So a few months ago, I put a video up here, you might remember, where I was talking about some changes I really needed to make. And there were two really kind of big changes that were shining out as the ones I really needed to address. I mean, I'm sure there's other changes as well I could make. There's always improvements, isn't it? We are a constant work in progress after all. Without picking everything, I narrowed it down to those two things and did the work basically, because it does take a push to change direction, doesn't it? If you think about life being a great big bus or a ship, to change direction does take energy. So I waited, I kind of knew that I needed to make changes, if you like, and then I waited until I was ready and had enough energy in my energy banks to make the changes. And then I wasn't letting myself down by falling off track, if you like. And so here we are, 3 months on, and I feel like I've absolutely turned my life around. I feel bright, I feel fresh, I feel alive, I feel lighter in every way. I feel clearer in my mind, clearer in my thinking, clearer in my kind of productivity processes, my to-do lists. Everything just feels simplified. We do talk about spring cleaning, and I think I say this almost every year, if not every year, but I love to do it in the autumn. That's the time where I really like to have my proper clear out. And then maybe in the spring I do, some dusting and stuff. But this has been a really major letting go. Project Wendy, if you like. So I don't usually talk about eating habits and make meals and what I eat in a day and that kind of thing on this YouTube channel, but I do often talk about self-care and well-being. And so obviously a big part of that is our eating and our nutrition. And because that's one of the major changes that I made a few months ago, I will just go into a few main things that I have changed, I've let go of, and also a few additions as well. And also the main ideas, if you like, behind my food choices these days, because they've changed completely. A little while ago, maybe 2 years, nearly 3 years ago, I actually gave up alcohol. And I'm not sure if I've given up alcohol for good, but it was definitely to do with, menopause and being really, really sensitive to alcohol. And I've always really been a glass of wine in the evening type of person, or 2 or 3 indeed. I love a nice glass of wine. So it was fairly difficult for me to sort of get my head around giving it up, but I was also noticing my body was reacting differently and I was becoming really ultra sensitive to alcohol, so I thought it was better to let it go. So I let that go. That changed my sleep literally overnight, because I've been having a lot of sleep issues which were related to menopause as well, but that changed sleep patterns overnight. And I've since learned a lot more about what alcohol actually does to the brain and our sleep patterns in specific, as well as a lot of other things too. So that was one thing I wanted to let go of. Now, there's no judgment here. If you enjoy a glass of whatever it is, your favourite tipple, then carry on. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just literally saying this is what I did and this is what I needed to do. And it wasn't necessarily the easiest thing, but that was one of the first things to go. I then have dabbled in the past with giving up caffeine as well, coffee. I don't drink a lot of coffee. I usually have 2 small cups a day. But I was again finding that sensitivity to caffeine with growing older, going through menopause and that kind of thing. So I decided I wanted to let that go, and I tried a few different options for that over the last few years actually. I went cold turkey, I tried that. That was really hard. I moved on to green tea, matcha tea, and that was pretty delicious actually. So I would say that was fairly successful. And then I went back onto the caffeine. But it was really interesting because a few months ago, James was sort of trying out some decaf coffees, ground coffees in a coffee percolator, but decaf ones. And it was at the time where he was working away. I was making coffee in the mornings without him and without my glasses. So I was basically switching myself over to decaf coffee without even realising it. And I didn't actually notice. I didn't get headaches, as is quite common when you're withdrawing from caffeine. It can be quite a nasty headache as well. And I didn't really notice that much of a change in my energy. So after that, I thought, oh, that is interesting. And then I started sort of making my percolator with a couple of spoons of caffeinated coffee and a couple of teaspoons of decaf coffee and just mixing it. And so I've kind of gradually weaned myself off. And now, speaking of which, right, let me go and get a cup, hang on. So now I'm really, really in a situation. I don't have any caffeine at all. Cheers to you, whatever you're drinking. And again, there's no judgment at all for you if you're still enjoying your caffeine. Please carry on. I'm just talking about for me. So those were the two things that I gave up before I started this other change. I just wanted to be really upfront about that because I didn't do everything all at once because I didn't want to get overwhelmed with it all. And it would have felt pretty overwhelming to give up alcohol, coffee, and then switch my eating habits as well. So if you are the kind of person that can take it all on at once, then go for it. But if you're like me and you need to sort of break it down a little bit, then feel free to do that as well, because I think if we take things into little steps, into baby steps, and we don't take the whole lot on, it's not like climbing a mountain has to all happen in the same day, does it? We can take a little step and get to the next ledge. And so that was the way I was looking at it, if you like. A little bit more of a softer approach worked for me anyway. And then the main things about my current eating then, the things that I switched up, was that I was noticing, first of all, that I wasn't having proper meals. I was snacking a lot, and I was snacking on the most unhealthy things possible. A lot of crisps, or in the US you call them chips. I absolutely love those, by the way, because I love the crunch. And I just love savoury snacks. Yes, I'm not really a sweet tooth, so that's my thing. But I wasn't really hungry at meal times because I've been snacking so much. And yes, it kind of worked with my workflow in the sense that, you know, I'm painting and I'm covered in paint and I don't want to go home and cook a meal. It wasn't working for my health, and I was really starting to suffer. Energy levels were getting worse, and things like fibromyalgia symptoms were, you know, I was becoming quite inflamed in my body from all these horrible toxins in these really, it's not really proper food, is it? Because I think you can only call it a food if it's actually nutritious, and a lot of these snacks they've not got any nutrition whatsoever. In fact, they've got more bad things than anything else. So I knew they had to go, even though it was kind of a comfort eating thing as well. So there was that kind of thing. But I also knew that ultra processed foods are addictive. So high fat, high sugar, high salt foods are highly addictive. And a lot of them have things in them that make them even more addictive, don't they? So I wanted to get myself off those. And because as well, I'm an all or nothing person. So I'm not really a moderator kind of person. I think there's two types of people, aren't there, with their sort of eating, drinking kind of addictive kind of habits. And I'm really an all or nothing. So it's not like I could just say, oh, I can have a small bag of crisps, you know, every day. I'm talking bigger bags of snacks, you know, and not really mixing that in with something healthier. So for me, it all had to go. But again, you know, you might be completely different. You'd have to let me know in the comments what kind you are, whether you're a moderator or you're an all or nothing like me. Anyway, that was the first thing that I had to go, and had to swap it for real food. By that I mean kind of, you know, when you walk around a supermarket and you walk around the edges of the supermarket, that's kind of where most of the real food tends to be. You've got your eggs and your veggies and your meats and your fish. I'm actually vegetarian, apart from I do eat a little bit of fish these days as well because I felt like my body needed it. But I'm talking about cooking meals and real foods. And because it's just been summer, I've basically been living on all sorts of different types of salads. And so I've been getting a lot of leafy greens in, cutting them up with scissors in my salad bowl so that it shrinks them down as well, so I can get more in my salad bowl, and really getting all my minerals and all the goodness from those greens as well. I've also cut out foods that are pretty much in the deadly nightshade family. So potatoes, beetroot. I can have a little bit of beetroot, which I kind of have for my iron, but not much. You know, any of the roots I really struggle with, and also tomatoes. There's something in the seeds of tomatoes that affects if you suffer from inflammation in your joints and fibromyalgia type things. So I cut a few healthy things out as well, you know, from doing some research. So sorry about that, my memory card was full of my camera. Anyway, I was basically saying I really recommend researching yourself in accordance with your own unique challenges, health issues and ailments that you have, to see what you need to let go of and what you need to make additions of, if that makes sense. So for me, tomatoes were a bit of a surprise because, number one, I thought they were really, really healthy, full of vitamin C and antioxidants, etc. And also, I really love tomatoes as well. So it was a little bit of letting go for me, I had to say. But I wanted to try it for 2 to 3 weeks, to see if it actually made a difference, and I have to say it did. So apart from swapping the ultra processed foods for having real foods and swapping snacks for real meal times, I also made some additions to my supplements as well, which I've taken absolutely religiously. I really have. And I really like to take iron and vitamin B. That's, I think, really important, especially for me. I'm a vegetarian, and I have a little bit of inclination towards anemia and that kind of thing. So I need to stay on top of that. And then the other thing I really like to have is magnesium, which I think helps with my sleep, but it also helps with bone health. So I take magnesium every day. As well as taking magnesium, I also take Celtic sea salt as a remedy, as a medicine, if you like. Now, I love a little bit of salt on my food, as long as it's nice quality salt like pink Himalayan salt or a Celtic sea salt. But also, because that's full of minerals and good for your bones, but it's also apparently really good for hydration. So if you put just 1 grain of salt on your tongue before having a glass of water, then it's supposed to rehydrate all your cells much more powerfully than just drinking the glass of water. So I've been doing that as well. And so whether that's working or not, you'll have to let me know if you know anything about that as well. I also have been taking iodine, so just a couple of drops on my skin, and it goes bright orange, but that's really good for me as well. And then for my hormone health, and I've taken this for a long time, so you might have heard me mention this before, is maca. And I take maca organic powder. It's a South American vegetable, root vegetable. I have it in a powder form and I sprinkle it on my breakfast. And it's almost a little bit like, if you know the drink Horlicks, it's something a bit like that. So it's kind of like a really sort of cream, oaty kind of flavour. It's really nice. So I just sprinkle a spoonful or 2 of that on my breakfast. That helps regulate my progesterone and estrogen levels. I think that's really helped see me through my menopause process as well. So I'm very grateful to the maca root. Yes. I think the other 2 things that I will mention here that were really, really important part of my process from moving from unhealthy habits and being stuck there within addictive and comfort eating cycles and shifting that into a healthier state was definitely the energy I put into a mind shift state, and also doing the simple steps like making sure I've got my shopping list and that I actually go to the supermarket so I've got the foods I need in my fridge when I'm hungry, if that makes sense. That's part of doing the steps, that's part of doing the work. And I think, you know, on top of that, it's really, really important that you have the energy to be consistent. So don't start until you're ready. I think that's always the thing for me. I always feel like I should, you know, jump in straight away, but sometimes I honestly don't have the energy to put in. That push does take energy, and to keep yourself on track, it's self-discipline and inner parenting as well, isn't it? So make sure you're ready for it in all the ways. Anyway, let me give you a few updates that have been going on in the studio as well. I'm not going to do a full tour or anything like that, but I am going to show you the things that I have found most life-changing and the work that I've been doing. Yes, behind the scenes. If you've seen the video from a few weeks ago, you will recognise some of the changes, perhaps putting up of this cupboard, the sort of mini plan chests and a few other things. But basically, in a nutshell, I've just cleared my flat surfaces. So I've actually got a space to work, and that has been the key for me, creating space. So I've got all this floor space and my flat surface spaces. And this is the art studio part of my L-shaped studio. So if I could just take you over there, that's kind of my officey bit. And I've got a nice sitting spot in there and my books and things like that. But I really wanted to transform specifically my art studio part, if you like. And James found me another one of the plan chests on Facebook Marketplace. It was £60, that one, and it's really in pretty good condition. And so I've put all my collage materials, all my papers, all my part finished work, it's all away safely and it's not lying around. And because it's drawers, it's all organised. So those 2 plan chests have been absolutely life-changing, I have to say. And then I've cleared a space under here as well so I can get my knees if I want to sit and work there. I've created spaces for my options, if you like. The other thing I did, you might remember, is I created a pegboard situation on that end and a little nook indeed to tuck all my bits and bobs. I've got like a tool charging spot there with my camera, batteries and a hoover, like my charging station, and then places to put canvases, easels, sweeping brush, just a place for things, you know, that just end up everywhere. I just wanted to create a situation where I had spots for things, so it wasn't just lying around everywhere basically. And then that shelf was there. I'm going to fine tune some of this brush storage as well, so that's a work in progress for future. And then over this side of the room I've created my colour corner, which I absolutely love, so I can put all my colour swatching and things like that I need up, and also my paints. I've got my oil paints, my acrylic paints, and I might need a little bit more storage. I've got my inks along this shelf here, so James put that shelf up for me. So it's just getting rid of items that were on these flat surfaces. And then I also take you over this part of the studio as well. I have got my art trolleys out, so that's one of my art trolleys that was revamped from a second-hand shop. James sort of put an extra shelf, and I've got my palette and some paint pens and some rags underneath. So that's really sort of a painting trolley. And then I've got my main art table, which I think is 1.8 meters long. It's a really long table, that, and I've propped up my drawing board so that it is a little bit at an angle. I've just at the moment got a little box underneath, but just to help the ergonomics of my neck. And then another thing I'm going to do for ergonomics is actually change the way I film top down. So I've kind of got a new system which I'm going to try out later on today to see if I can actually get something a little bit more ergonomic and better for my health with filming top-down videos. So that's the plan. And then the other thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a couple of changes actually. I mean, yes, I've cleared the space, and I actually got rid of, there was a shelf here. I got rid of that because it was visual clutter and I wanted it clear. I wanted it clear underneath the table, and I wanted it clear here. It was all feeling just too busy and too overwhelming. But what I do want to do is change the way I store my paintbrushes. So I might buy something, or James might make me something. And then also I've got my other trolley, as you can see over here, and it's pretty organised with art supplies. And I've always been a kind of girl who will store her pencils basically flat. I love them, you know, in trays, flat. So I had all my colour combinations, and they were all laid out on my desk indeed. And so I've tried these. I got these actually with the trolley when I bought it from Facebook Marketplace, and I've put sort of my pencil crayons in them, but I have to say I don't like it at all. I much prefer them laid out flat, so I've got another idea, and I'll fill you in as I go along with that. But I can't cope with them like this at all. I can't figure it. I can't think straight to what colours I need. I need to have them, yeah, laying out, but I don't want them everywhere. I also feel that they're not quite safe. If I knock that off and it falls down, all the leads will break. And these are really, really expensive. So I don't feel they're quite safe there either. Apart from that, the trolley's working really, really well. Over on that side of the room in the L shape, you can see I have my office area. I've got my editing all set up there because I need to edit this video for you. Also, I've got a lovely sitting spot where I can sit and edit, get comfy. So again, I'm taking care of my physical health because I do have a bit of a problem with my neck, so I need to get my neck comfy. And also a nice comfy reading spot as well, with all my books stored over there. The other thing I did, you might remember, is to sort of utilize this side of the room for my plants rather than keeping them in the window, because they were just getting too much light. And I love my plant babies. If you've been around here a while, you will know that. I still have a few things to prune and take care of, so things are not finished yet. But, you know, again, I am a work in progress, and they're much, much happier in their new situations, including the lilies down here as well. So I've put all those down there. So they were underneath my art table. They kind of come out in the winter because they like the winter light. Yes. And of course, by cleaning out all my cupboards and boxes and clutter, so I found the things that I really, really love, that really, really inspire me, and I really want in here, including things that, you know, perhaps just spark my imagination, like my dressing up box, for example. I've now got a little bit more space on my shelving, so I've put those there. And I made a list of items that I really fancied having in my dressing up box. One of those things was just kind of tulle skirt, so that sort of netting kind of thing. So I found a couple of things secondhand. So I've got these to sort of dress up and dance around in, which is another big part of my sort of creativity and loosening up as well. It really sort of helps me loosen up in my practice. Of course, there are many different layers and reasons for dressing up, which I've talked about, including, you know, the exploration of identity, themes, and just loosening up and getting in the zone for play. It really helps me loosen up in my painting practice as well, for example. example. So I found this little dress, it's really cute. And then I've also found this one as well, which I absolutely love, which is just lots and lots of nets. I think it's a petticoat in actual fact, it's not really a dress, but that's the whole point of a dressing up box, isn't it? That you wear things that you can create different moods and identities with, and yeah, to feel a certain way. So this kind of dancey tulle tutu kind of situation will be going in my dressing up box too, yes, as well as other items as my whims and fancies, yes, desire, indeed. Even if they're just for fun, they are totally worthy, yes. So thank you so much for watching and keeping me company. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. Let me know any thoughts you have. And try to keep your lights shining bright, of course. Just do your best, and I will see you in the next video. Yes, bye for now. Let's put the microphone on and actually try that again, shall we?
Make 'em better. Yeah, you're making me wanna try forever. And I feel so free. I'm a sweet baby.